Dear friends, I'm really sorry that we are starting late today. There were certain guests who had come to Professor Habib's house and we got delayed because of that. And as it is, all of us are waiting to hear Habib Saab, so we could not start before he was present here. Well, as all of you know, that 15th of October is related by Abul Fazl as the alleged date of birth of Akbar. Was he really born on this date or not? There is a controversy. But whatever, as it is recorded in the official history of Akbarnama and as the whole chart of his birth was made according to this date, we accept it and we take it as the date on which one should actually appreciate what this individual had done as far as our history is concerned. You know, the topic which we have kept for today is reclaiming Akbar. Let me remind you that perhaps it was since much before 2014 that the process of losing Akbar by the Indians had started. There were attempts being made to denigrate him, belittle him, and present him as controversial as perhaps Aurangzeb had been. The first attempt in this regard was made by a gentleman, Dinanath Batra, whose textbooks, a number of them, at least 4 or 5, were prescribed in the Gujarat schools. This Dinanath Batra, it is interesting to note, was also once related with NCERT. He had been a member of NCERT. But along with that, he was also the General Secretary of Vidya Bharati, and he was an active member of the school networks of the RSS. And he launched a Shiksha Bachao Andolan Samiti. And as per that, we've come to know that the changes in the history were introduced in our curriculum. It was in 2014 when, under his influence, Wendy Doniger's The Hindus and Alternative History was banned. Similarly, the famous article of A.K. Ramanujan on many versions of Ramayana, 100 Ramayanas, was also banished from the syllabus of Delhi University. And all this was being carried out by the new Prime Minister of that period, who had taken charge of the country, and he all started, talking about genetics and plastic surgery in ancient India. By 2015, certain so-called, within inverted commas, historians of this genre started talking about planes capable of interplanetary travels, which were known to the ancient Indians. Prime Minister also speak of that. By 2019, the Indian Science Congress which was supposed to be a premium body of scientists in India, in its 106th session, started having papers to the same effect. In fact, according to some of the papers which were presented at Indian Science Congress, the ancient Indians, the Vedic Indians, knew internet, had planes, and modern medicine was also there. The knowledge of modern medicine was there. We know that in certain of these things which I am talking about may appear remote to you, but this is exactly what the new education policy and NCERT series have done. That is what the new syllabi which is to be taught to the students in Indian schools are to be taught. The Indian sciences and the demonization of the Mughals, especially people like Akbar. We know that since day one, Akbar had been belittled by the Pakistani historians. He was supposed to be the person who had, introduced the Kafirs to the Mughal polity, thus destroying whatever there was, and poor Aurangzeb had to labor against what Akbar had done to revive the situation once again. This was there as far as Pakistani historians were concerned. But then our new NCERT textbook, especially the one dealing with medieval India, which has been introduced it has been suggested for class 8, and teaching of that has started during this session. It talks about the reign of Akbar being a blend of brutality and tolerance, shaped by ambition and strategy. I mean, the whole image of Akbar stands tarnished by what the NCERT is now teaching the young minds. In fact, in 2021 itself, we have a luminary who was the Deputy Chief Minister of BJP in Rajasthan. She belonged to the family which had benefited the most from the policies of Akbar, the house of Kachwahas, Diya Kumari. All of you must have read in the newspapers that one fine morning she claimed in an interview that I have changed history. At Haldighati, the plaque which had announced that Akbar had won and Rana Pratap had lost, I got it changed. And now in that plaque, it is Rana Pratap who is victorious, and thus we are changing history. At that particular moment of time, we had all laughed at it. But now, the same things which Batra had done, or this minister of BJP was doing in 2021, is now part of the syllabus, and that is why this particular program of Aligarh Society of History and Archaeology, which stands for a scientific and scientific study of the past, we thought of trying to retrieve the position of what Akbar actually had been. Now, without taking much more of your time, I had thought that if we start on time, I would also discuss certain of the things about Akbar, how those things should have been taught to the students but are now being totally ignored. In fact, the section on Akbar is only of a few pages, and that too half pages, with big photographs introduced in between, so that whatever the child comes to know is only a brief account. And in that, what is being told to us about the Fateh-Nama, about Chittor, about Jauhar. Now, whatever Akbar stood for, that in short is being negated, and that became one of the reasons that when this his centenary 15th of October approached, I requested Professor Shirin Musfi and Professor Irfan Habib to present us the view of who actually Akbar had been, and that is why the title Reclaiming Akbar as far as young students who are sitting here are concerned. I would now invite Professor Shirin Musfi to come and present to you. I mean, she is one of those scholars whom perhaps everybody sitting here in this room knows. She has done work on the statistical analysis of Ain-e Akbari, the work which was done by Abul Fazl, and she has studied in depth, having written articles on religion and Akbar, on Mansab, and a large number of themes. I request her to please, ma'am. Well, it's very hard to say something after what Professor Habib has spoken. But for the young students sitting out here, I would like to point out one fact, sir and ma'am, and that is that the personality of, or what Akbar did, is best summed up by Father Montserrat. When Father Montserrat came to the court of Akbar, he came with the intention of converting him to Christianity, because he thought that Akbar is very amiable as far as religion is concerned. But then ultimately he wrote that by accepting everything, what Akbar actually is doing is that he is negating all religions. Perhaps that is one of the greatest differences between the Sulhekul of Darashiko, which these days is being celebrated, where Hinduism and Islam is being compared and put on the same pedestal. Akbar's Sulhekul was negation of everything which was irrational. A particular example of that are the palaces of Fatehpur Sikri. If you go there, almost all the palaces which were in use by the emperor himself, you would find a large number of wall surface decorations and paintings, which includes one sculpture which is not talked about in general by people or historians, and that is the sculpture of Lord Ram and Hanuman, which is there in a palace building which was being used by Akbar. Remember that this cult of Krishna, the cult of Rama, they all start from the period of Akbar. So if not only that he contributed to secularism, or what we wrongly call as Ganga Jamuni, but even the present day Hinduism owes a lot to the person and policies which Akbar had followed during his period of time. I am really thankful to Professor Irfan Habib especially and Professor Shirin Musfi for having agreed to come here in spite of their age and naturally all the problems which they suffer as far as their health is concerned. But I hope that in future also, whenever Aligarh Society of History and Archaeology holds a program, both my teachers, I hope, would agree to be present here. Next, program of ASHA, Aligarh Society of History and Archaeology, would be on 25th. Remember that October is a very special month as far as we are concerned as Indians and as Aligarhians. The month starts with the birth of Gandhiji, the Apostle of Peace, followed by 15th of August, No, 15th of October, which is the birth of the once again an apostle of peace who belonged to 16th century. He also died on 30th of October, the same month. And then how can the Aligarhians forget Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who did so much, and whatever we are today, we may agree with him, we might not agree with his views. His views belong to 18th century or 19th century. Naturally, he lived in a different milieu altogether, but whatever he contributed, one can never forget that. So on 25th of October, ASHA would be celebrating, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. We already had a walk on Sir Syed a week or so ago, but we would culminate this October with 3 presentations on Sir Syed Ahmad Khan on 25th. Perhaps, if I'm not wrong, it would be in the Faculty of Arts Lounge, and we will have Professor Shafiq Adwai, Professor Farhat Hassan, and Professor Asim Siddiqui, and of course I'll be there. So, I hope that Irfan Saab would agree to come there and preside over that function. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining us today.